Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I want to share with you all of the wild and wonderful ways that you can practice tree pose. Now, you're probably fairly familiar with tree pose. It is a very well-known pose. It is a widely practiced pose, and there are a lot of variations, but most of them are incredibly similar to the basic variation where you're standing on one leg with your foot somewhere on that standing leg, okay? What I want to do is invite you to explore tree pose in many other forms, maybe ones you've never seen before, maybe ones you've never tried before, maybe ones you've never even thought were possible. So let's shake up your tree pose today and go on a little yoga adventure. So we will start with what is familiar. So you can start by standing on your left leg. This is your basic tree pose. You're standing on your left leg, and you can bring your right foot anywhere along your left leg, anywhere you want, okay? The key is not where you put it. The key is how you engage your standing leg with your bent leg, with your tree leg, okay? Well, they're both tree legs, really. So the big key here is my left leg, I need my thigh, because that's what's in contact with my foot, to squeeze toward my foot, and my foot to squeeze toward my thigh. Now that gives me a little bit of a lift, so I feel my pelvic floor lift up. I feel my core muscles engaged to help me stabilize in this balance. Right? My spine even gets a little bit longer when I squeeze in, and there's more midline focus, right? That center line of my body, okay? So that is a really useful action. Now let's switch sides. You can stand on your right leg and lift your left foot up. Now, alternative to grabbing your foot and bringing it as high as you can on your leg, you can just slide your left foot up or lift your left foot and bring it as high as you can on your right leg. Now, what you might notice is my left foot is not as high up toward my pelvis as it was when I grabbed my ankle, right? I grab my ankle and pull it all the way up my thigh, okay? And that's a little bit more of a passive approach, passive range of motion. And all that really means is that I'm helping myself out using my hand, my arm, to move my hip higher, to get my foot higher. Okay, when I'm doing this more active lift, it's just active for my hips. It asks a little bit more of my body. So that's one way that you can shake up the more typical tree pose where you're standing on one leg. Now, if you need more support, or if you like the idea of support, there are two ways that you can practice tree pose, either using a wall or a chair. Okay, so if I go over to this wall over here, I can place my right hand on the wall, and I know that we were just standing on right leg. It's okay, it doesn't matter. But I can lean into the wall, it's like a leaning tree. Lift my left foot up, anywhere on my thigh, and just push the wall away. Maybe extend my arm alongside my ear, get a little bit of a side body stretch. Oh, that's so much fun. And then I could even push off the wall, which is tricky, and maybe see if I could find a leaning tree without the wall. Okay, now there's absolutely nothing wrong with being at the wall. It's actually a really lovely stretch to be at the wall. So it's not like a punishment, like, oh, I can't balance, I've got to use the wall. No, it's just a different way of being in tree pose, right? I'm anchoring into tree on this right side. I'm really pushing through my right hand, getting a little bit more side body stretch. Okay, getting a little bit more length there, okay? And then if I push off the wall, and this could be done lots of different ways, I can bring my left forearm to left thigh, right arm alongside my ear. Oh, and I really have to squeeze my right leg into my left foot here because it's really easy to lose balance there, okay? Now, you could do this with a chair as well. If you don't have a wall handy, you could put your hand on the top of a chair and lean. Okay, you could have your forearm on your thigh. You could also use the chair, right, to bring your foot up, okay? Turn your foot out slightly so your knee is turning out, and then grab your foot if you wanted to work on getting your foot higher up onto your thigh. Okay, so I'm going to do that slightly on an angle so you can see it again. If I lift my foot up onto the chair, now it's on something stable while I'm balancing, okay? I can turn my foot out, my knee out, and really work on that external rotation that helps get my knee out to the side, my foot up to the top of my thigh, and then maybe bring it up. And I'm using this chair as just a touch point. So I've got one hand on the chair, foot on the chair, and that just gives me a little bit more access. Now, a note about tree pose, while we're thinking about it, It does not matter. So I'm going to turn to the side. You don't have to, and I'm going to turn so you can see better here. You don't have to like wrench your left knee out to the left to try to get it flush with your hip. Your knee can point forward, okay? So I want to just offer that really important alignment piece right now. You're not trying to like force your knee to be in line with your hip unless you want to, potentially make your knee very angry with you, okay? Not necessarily going to hurt it, but it's not necessarily going to feel good either. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so number three, you can do what I like to call a tree salute. Okay, that would be a sun salutation with a tree. So you would start the sun salutation at the back of your mat instead of the front. Unless you want to jump back, I'll show you both options. So if I'm standing on my left leg, right foot comes up into a tree pose anywhere on my leg. The trick is the folding forward part and the walking out. Okay, that's the trick. And then you come forward into your plank, lower down. Hello, back bend. Push back up. Walk back. Bend your left knee. That's your standing leg. And that's the hard part, right? Because you're bending while your knee is pointed out to the side. And then you come back up to stand. Ooh, that's a lot of work. Okay, so you could do this jumping back to if you want. I just think that's harder. I'll show that really quickly just for funsies. Okay, so, and you can also think of this as like an alternative to tree. Not alternative to tree, but an alternative to that sun salutation is just doing tree squats. Tree squats, that's another one, right? But I jump down, hop, hop, hop. Oh, that's so hard. My foot has slid down, that's okay. Got my plank, chaturanga, tree cobra, tree dog, and then I hop, hop, oh, and my foot slid down, but I made it, right? So that's another way that you can play with tree. Now, while we're still standing, one more variation of tree pose, and that is a tree back bend. So check it. I'm only gonna do this one once. You can have your foot anywhere you want on your leg. So you can have it on your shin, thigh, that's gonna be standard. But in your tree pose, you can do, a little back bend. Fun, okay? Lots of wild fun. So that is your back bend in tree as well. Okay, next one, Vashisthasana tree. So this one sort of originates from like a downward facing dog tree or your tree flow. But the easiest way to do it is actually to come into a kickstand version of Vashisthasana. So I'm on my left hand and my left foot. I want to stand more on my left foot. So no outside edge, that's not a thing. I'm standing on my foot and I grab the pinky toe side of my foot, pull it up, and now I'm in a Vashisthasana tree. Now alternatively, you could have your foot on your shin, knee, thigh, wherever you want. But that is another fun variation of tree pose. Not the typical tree, one that you maybe have not seen or done before. Okay, so Vashisthasana tree. Okay, now number 5, and I'm looking at my notes just because I don't want to forget anything because they're all so good. Okay, so this is a really wild one, y'all. Tree balance. It's an arm balance in tree pose. So here's how it works. Tree pose. Again, this is where those tree squats really come in. You're going to bend your knee, standing leg knee. This really works best if your foot is up at the top of your thigh. So if you cannot get your foot at the top of your thigh, probably not going to work. But you want to bring your left upper arm to your shin, and then right knee to right elbow. And then once you're there, you try to extend your right leg back. Woo, tree balance. So again, that one is one. You got to be able to have your foot up at the top of your thigh to try that. It is a pretty serious arm balance because you're balancing with your shin on your upper arm, which I think is fairly challenging. It's very similar to like what a lot of people call flying pigeon. Okay, so with your foot wrapped around your ankle, but in this case, no foot wrapped around the ankle, so it's really all upper body strength and hip work. So that's number 5. We are only halfway through, y'all. Okay, so number 6 is an inversion. tree pose inversion. So I'm going to show you headstand because I think that one's the easiest one. Okay, so headstand, tree pose. All right, so you would go up into your headstand, one leg goes up, the other foot against your leg, anywhere. So you could have your foot up at your shin or all the way up the top of your thigh. Okay, now, fun fact, super fun fact about Sanskrit, the word vrikshasana in Sanskrit is tree pose. Okay, Adho Mukha vrikshasana is upside down tree. Want to guess what pose that is? Want to guess? Want to guess? It's a handstand. So anytime you're doing a handstand, you are doing an upside down tree pose. So maybe you've never thought of tree pose that way before, but that is another way that you can celebrate tree on your mat in a less conventional way. All right, number 7, we are moving down to the floor now. Number 7 is pigeon pose. Well, I thought we were just doing tree. Well, shape of your legs is really similar. So think of it this way. I'm going to do pigeon with my right knee out to the right, left leg back. Okay, if I was standing, it would look a lot like tree. The shape of my legs, right? So I'm going to turn forward, do it on the other side so you can see. So what's happening with my front leg? See how that knee is moving out to the side? My leg is externally rotating and the other leg is straight. Tree pose. This is a really great way that you can warm up your body for tree. You can practice the balance by squeezing your legs toward one another, right? Lots of really cool ways to work tree pose in pigeon. Okay, so great way to warm up for it, great way to use balance, and just a really fun way to think about the actions of tree pose in a completely different pose. Okay, now another one. If you bring the soles of your feet together, this is called double tree. But no, anyway, that was really bad. But this is the same angle of your legs, right, as it would be in tree pose, right? So you've got external rotation, knees are bent, feet are pressing inward. So again, this is a really great way either to warm up for tree pose or to cool down, right? To cool down or to just give yourself a little bit more of a grounded tree. Now, taking this one step closer to tree pose, if you extend your right leg out, keep your left foot back, this is Janu Shirshasana. It's like a seated tree pose. The cool thing about this one is it's a forward bend too. So you get some really lovely external hip rotation with your bent leg and you get some really lovely hamstrings action. Okay. Now you could also do this standing. That's one that I neglected to do. You could do a forward fold tree pose. Why don't I just show you that really quickly? So it's not all that different from what you did in the sun salutation, only without bent legs. So if I bring my foot up, and again, this can be anywhere on my leg. So I'm putting it down at my shin this time. Forward fold. Also tree. Okay, so you can look at it that way. You can do it seated or standing, foot anywhere on your leg. Okay, last one. And this is not one that I practice particularly often, but it's another way that you can do tree pose legs in an inversion. Okay, so shoulder stand or simply, and I'll do this on my back as well, supine. So I'm not doing this as shoulder stand yet, but just both legs up and then you would slide one foot down and then switch, other foot down. And this is actually a really great hip mobility and hip strengthening exercise. Okay, now if you wanted to turn that into shoulder stand, I'm going to keep my body facing this way. With shoulder stand, I generally recommend putting a blanket underneath your shoulders just to give your head and neck, shoulders a bit more support. Okay, in service of just sort of staying here and not complicating things, I'm going to go into shoulder stand so that you can see, but the idea is the same, right? You just slide one leg down, and then since I happen to be close to the wall, I can use the wall to lower, okay? So I know I went through all of those really, really quickly, but hopefully what you get from all of that is some really fun tree pose inspiration. Just to look at tree pose not as the typical standing balance, wah, wah, wah pose that, you have probably done 100,000 times before, and instead think of how many different ways that you can explore tree pose. Now, if this sounds like you're kind of fun, I am working on tree pose all month long in my online studio, Move with Naomi. Tree poses are pose of the month, so you will definitely see every single one of these variations at some point over the course of the month, whether they are in the 15-minute pre-recorded classes, which are focused on strength, so strength building, focused on flow, so an energizing flow, or a mellow movement class, so you can bet it's going to be a lot of Janu Shirshasana tree and forward bending tree and pigeon, maybe some double tree too. And then in all of the 30-minute classes, if you're in Move with Naomi, you will get all these different variations of tree there as well. So if that sounds like you're kind of fun, join me in Move with Naomi or Move 15 for some really wild, really wonderful, really exciting tree pose classes all month long. You can use the link in the description below, plus a really awesome discount code to get your first month, hey buddy, for 80% off. But wherever you choose to practice with me, whether you are here on YouTube or with me in Move, I am just so glad that you have decided to be here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and exploring some really cool new variations of tree, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon. Until then, bye everyone.